You're listening to Simply the Best Sports Take, the best podcast breaking down the best stuff in sports with host Sean Bingham. His takes are so good, he dropped the mic, but then you wouldn't be able to hear him, and that would suck.
Welcome into STB Sports Take, Simply the Best Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Bingham, and we've got really nothing to talk about today. Super boring NBA playoff game last night. Totally kidding. The Jazz go off in the second half. Epic comeback. I was there. Incredible atmosphere. Loved every second of it. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor Podcasts. Everywhere you get your podcasts, we are there. Thank you for joining us. And yes, guys, it was an epic game one for the Utah Jazz. No Mike Conley. A little bit of rust from all the time off. A little bit of nerves, it looked like. Horrendous first quarter. One of the worst first quarters I've ever seen in the history of basketball, if I'm being completely honest. At one point, the Jazz missed 20 straight shots. It might have even been 21. I've seen different. I'd have to go back and look at the play-by-play, but 20 straight shots we miss, okay? And still come back to win this game. I cannot believe the Clippers didn't bury us after such a horrible first quarter. Donovan Mitchell goes off in the second half. It was so much fun being there. My good friend Jimmy Rex, who's been on the podcast before, we had him on. And by the way, you can tell my voice is almost gone because we were screaming and yelling and having a good time last night. But Jimmy Rex gets a suite for us, a group of us guys. There was like 24 of us. Bunch of cool dudes. I knew probably 2/3, 3/4 of them. Met a bunch of others. Tons of fun. All of the guys were super rad and very successful. It was a ton of fun. Actually, Haloti Ngata played in the NFL. He was in the suite with us. Super kind guy. Actually got to hold his Super Bowl ring, wear it, get a picture with him. Now, it was really, really cool game. But anyway, so atmosphere is just incredible, right? Like the stands are packed. We're back to full capacity. They stayed full capacity, but it wasn't really. They still have a couple of rows right behind the teams blocked off, and then also the corners just down there along the baselines next to the teams blocked off. So my guess is there's another 1,000 people they could have put in there. Maybe not quite that. Maybe another 500 or so they could have put in there. But it's a packed house. But most in the NBA by far. LA is still doing like cardboard cutouts. Ooh, how boring is that going to be for them? So game 3 will be super fun. I'm sure the cardboard cutouts will be screaming loud there in LA for the Clippers, but not much different than their usual fans, right? So it's insane, like the color coordination of all the T-shirts, and the crowd's just lit. It was so much fun. We start hot. Donnie gets a couple of rim-ins, he gets those threes where the ball just wants to touch every last part of the rim and backboard and then finally falls through the hoop. And I'm thinking, man, this is good. This is our night. And then just someone turned the AC way up and we went ice cold. For 20 straight shots, we could not buy a bucket. And we weren't just missing threes, though that was especially the problem. We were missing layups. I remember Joe Ingles had a wide open, nobody around him layup and missed it. Ice cold. The Jazz go ice cold. 3 of 22 at one point from the field. And then we ended the first quarter 5 of 28 shooting. 5 of 28 from the field. The Jazz were at the end of the first quarter. 5 of 20 from 3. So we were 5 of 20 from 3, which means we were 0 of 8 from 2-point land. It was just horrible first quarter. So second quarter is a little bit better. We kind of start to crawl back into it a little bit. We end up down 13 at the half, which was obviously really bad. But some good things happened towards the end of the half that I really liked. And one of them was Jordan Clarkson comes in. And right when he comes in, you know how I feel about Jordan Clarkson. He's a two-edged sword. I'm realizing that more and more. He's a two-edged sword. To get the good that he can provide, you have to be willing to put up with the bad. If you start to tell him to shoot less and do all these things, he's probably not going to have the same confidence that he has. And we needed that confidence at the end of the second half because he came in and he ends up hitting 2 threes. Actually, I think it was at the end of the first quarter, but is when we were just icy cold, right? Clarkson is just firing away. Miss. Gets his shot blocked 3 times in the lane. He got blocked 3 times in the lane. But then everyone else looked timid. Everyone else looked a little bit rusty, nervous. I could see the nerves. You could feel the nerves. Not with Clarkson. He was just guns a-blazing, fire away. And he ends up hitting 2 threes, back to back that were critical. Like he was the one that came in and had a little bit of confidence and gave us a little bit of a spark. And so even though he didn't shoot well, he was 6 of 18. And I don't always love his game and some of his shot selections. I like the fact that his confidence remained high because we actually needed somebody to step up and hit some shots, and he did that. So we go into halftime, though, down 13, and I remember thinking, like, we can't shoot any worse than we are. So the Jazz last night, by the way, the Clippers are the number 1 3-point shooting team in the league. Jazz were number 3, but the Jazz shoot a higher volume, so it's really like neck and neck, right? I mean, they're like 1% better than us on the season, or 1.5%, something like that. But neither team shot great last night. The Jazz, though, especially shot poorly. 40.7% from the field, 34% from 3. Our season average is about 39% from 3. So I don't think you'll see us shoot that poorly much more. The Clippers, however, they shot 38% from 3. They typically shoot 40. So they were only 2% lower, which means you likely won't see them shoot much better from 3. From the field, they were 42.4. So they actually shot better than us from the field, better than us from 3, better than us from the free throw line. They were 87.5 to our 80.8. So they shot better than the Jazz on every level. From the field, from three-point land, from the line, and the Jazz still win without Mike Conley, with all the rust, with the nerves, and we get it done. So Donovan Mitchell goes off. He had like 13, I think, in the first, 13 in the first half, 32 in the second half, 16 in the third quarter, 16 in the fourth quarter. Dominant second half. The guy is a bona fide superstar in the playoffs. He has proven himself. He's been in the league now 4 seasons. He's been to the playoffs 4 times. He did win a series his rookie year. Didn't the last 2. Did again this year now. So he's won 2 playoff series. This is his 4th time in the playoffs. He's experienced, and he's proven that he's a bona fide star in the playoffs. So he goes off for 32 in the second half. His regular season stats, by the way, for his career, okay, keep in mind, all 4 years he's been in the playoffs. So we've got equal number of seasons to go off of regular season and playoff stats. Typically in the playoffs, most players' numbers come slightly down, just slightly. And the reason is the competition is much stiffer. You're only playing the quality opponents, and defense is ratcheted up. The effort on defense is ratcheted up quite a bit. So most guys you see shoot a slightly worse percentage in the playoffs, maybe score a point or 2 less, with the exception of the true stars. Donovan Mitchell, for the regular season, for his career, 23.4 points per game, 4.1 rebounds, 4.3 assists. Okay, 23-4-4. For the playoffs for his career, the same number of seasons, 28. That's a 5-point jump in points per game from regular season to playoffs. 5 rebounds more, 4.4 assists, basically the same, 0.1 more assists. So on all of the major statistical things, he's better in the playoffs by quite a bit. Goes off for 45 last night, hitting big shot after big shot, getting to the hoop, and ones. It was just electric. The atmosphere was incredible. Gabrielle Union was in the house with D Wade. They're, of course, married, for those that don't know. She's a star in her own right. D Wade's, of course, a star, part owner of the Jazz. And I'm telling you, it makes a difference. We're so used to, in Utah, watching on TV and seeing like, oh, look, all these stars are in LA. All these stars are at the Heat game. All these stars are in New York. We never have stars, in Utah. Never. I mean, the biggest stars in Utah are whoever's on the court, at the time. But last night, we have D Wade, Gabrielle Union, both. That's the first time I've seen her at a game. Both of them sitting courtside. They showed them on the Jumbotron a bunch. I don't know how much they're showing them on TV, but on the Jumbotron in the stadium, they showed them a bunch. And it matters. People love it. People rally around it. You can see both of them like getting the crowd all amped up. D Wade's regularly talking to guys on the sideline there. They know exactly where he sits, and they're talking to him regularly throughout the game. You'll see, guys will hit threes and be giving him 5 as they run back up the court. This matters. It matters. It matters for culture. It matters for people wanting to stay. Does Donovan Mitchell want to stay here? You got Dwayne Wade sitting right there giving you pep talks and high fives during the game. Yeah, I think he wants to stay. So to me, this is just huge. This is so exciting, and I love the atmosphere. It was so much fun. So we go off in the second half, and it still ends up being really close down the stretch. I didn't like this because we had a 10-point lead. Bogey hit a big 3. We had a 10-point lead, and they ended up crawling back. And somehow, and actually Paul George, who's very overrated and had a horrible game, he did hit some big shots. I remember he hit a jumper, and then he hit a big 3. It was kind of too little too late, but he was the one that kind of helped them claw back into it and make it a close game there at the end. But then the last play, Jazz are up 3, right? Everybody saw this. And of course we're thinking Kawhi's going to take it, maybe Paul George. No, Ingles played some good defense on Kawhi. He has to give it up briefly to Paul George. Paul George wanted no part of that last shot. Playoff P wanted no part of that last shot. Immediately dishes it back to Kawhi. Kawhi's not in a position to get a good shot off. Morris is open in the corner. But what they forget is that he's got a 7'3", 7'4" defensive genius coming at him on the closeout in Rudy Gobert. Gobert gets pump faked. Actually, it's a successful pump fake, but Rudy's so quick, so defensive-minded, so long, so athletic. He gets back into position, blocks Marcus Morris's three-point shot from the corner right in front of D. Wade, by the way. It was so awesome. Like, so much drama there at the end. I loved every bit of it. So, and people are talking about Ben Simmons for Defensive Player of the Year. Anybody if it's not Rudy Gobert, it will be just a travesty, highway robbery. And that was a testament to his importance on this team. That play got that's such a demoralizing play if you're on the Clippers, and it's such a invigorating play if you're on the Jazz. I mean, it was the most perfect fitting ending, a Rudy Gobert block to seal the win. Like, it was so perfect. I loved it. And speaking of Ben Simmons, by the way, we have to talk about this real quick. So Donovan last night, let's read his stat line. Donovan had 45 points to go with 5 assists and 3 rebounds. Okay, he also had a steal and a block. Ben Simmons also played last night. His team did win. I'll give him props for that. Ben Simmons, though, in his game last night, if I can find it, here it is. He had 4 points, so only 41 fewer than Donovan. 7 assists, good job, 3 rebounds. That was his total stat line. He had 14 total points plus assists plus rebounds. That's the guy that stole Donovan's Rookie of the Year award when he was a second-year player, by the way. 4 points in a playoff game to go with 3 rebounds. That's Ben Simmons. So the Ben Simmons-Donovan Mitchell rivalry should officially be over. Ben Simmons is not even in Donovan's league offensively. He's not even in Rudy Gobert's league defensively. So we just need to stop it already with that. Donovan, by the way, last night, his 4th 40-point playoff game of his career, only 4 seasons in and only 2 series victories. And that ties Karl Malone for the most in Jazz franchise history. Karl Malone took 193 playoff games to get 4 40-point games. Donovan did it in 27 games. 27 games it took Donovan to get 4 40-point performances. One of them last night, an absolute masterpiece. 16 of 30 from the field, 6 of 15 from 3, 7 of 8 from the line. The guy was remarkable. And that was after an icy cold start, shivering start. And just absolutely wills the team to victory. And you look at the box score. Paul George, very overrated. By the way, we had the overrated chant going at the foul line, for which I liked a lot more than people. I think people were saying online that we were chanting playoff P, which actually could have been better, but it was push off P that people started chanting. I didn't love that one. Playoff P is funny because you're clearly taunting him with his own nickname that he gave himself. That's a joke. But overrated just was so funny. Like, we were burrowed in his head. And he is overrated. He was 4 of 17. 4 of 17. Come on, dude. 20 points. He was a -3 in the box score. Kawhi Leonard was a -12. Paul George was 3 of 8 from 3, which isn't bad. But 4 of 17 from the field. Come on, dude. It's the playoffs. You're getting paid a lot of money. So Kawhi and Paul George combined for 43 points. Donovan by himself has 45. I don't think we can rely on that, over and over. I don't think you're going to see Paul George go off for much more than like mid-20s for points. Kawhi, high 20s. So maybe you get an extra 10 points out of those guys, on average for this series. But then you go down to the Jazz, and Ingles was 3 of 12. Clarkson, 6 of 18. Niang, 1 of 4. O'Neal, 2 of 5. Gobert, 2 of 6. Bogdanovich, 6 of 14. Not a single guy even at 50% from the field. Not one. Royce O'Neal, 0 for 3 from 3. Ingles, 1 of 8 from 3. Niang was 1 of 3 from 3. I mean, we just didn't shoot well at all by our standards. And so I really think that you'll see the Jazz win this series. I do. I was pleasantly surprised at how well we played in the second half. I thought that we would. I even tweeted before the game. I said, look, no Conley, but I'm still taking the Jazz. I knew that the Jazz could win this game. We needed this game. We needed game 1. I hope we can get him back. I think we're better with him. He's a good floor general. He's a great passer. He's a good defender. He's a great three-point shooter. He's a veteran leader. I think we need him out there. But better safe than sorry. We get game 1. We'll see what happens if they play him tomorrow night. It's only 2 days. And the Clippers are not getting any rest here. They just had to go every other night through game 7. And now they got to keep going every other night with this series. And this is where you see how conditioning is and how conditioned players are and how good a shape they're in. They've been taking so much time off. That's good for not being injured, but how good is it for now just soreness of muscles and fatigue and, are they getting gassed towards the end of games? So we'll see how the Clippers do. The Jazz are going to win this series. I really believe that the Jazz will win this series. They've been the better team all season long. To me, the Jazz need to get to the NBA Finals. This is the year. I know we have a long ways to go. Still got to get 3 more wins in this series, then 4 more in the next. I am not getting ahead of myself. It is a very long ways to go. But this team is built to win. We're among the tops in offensive efficiency, among the tops in defensive efficiency. We were the best record in the league from start to finish. Best point differential from start to finish. We've got a rising superstar in Donovan Mitchell. We've got the best defensive anchor in the league in Rudy Gobert. We have one of the best coaches in the league in Quinn Snyder. We have the 6th man of the year in Jordan Clarkson. 6th man of the year runner-up in Joe Ingles. New owner and motivator and, just cheerleader in Dwayne Wade. There's just so much going on. Veteran leader in Mike Conley. There's just so many things going on that the pieces just fit so well. Bogdanovich is a great fit for this team. The guy, he impressed me last night. He was able to get his own shot on a number of occasions, getting into the post with some turnarounds. I'd actually like to see more of that from him. But this is the Jazz's year. This is the Jazz year. We can't squander this type of opportunity. This is the year, and if we can just get Conley healthy, if we can just not, and it's a hamstring. Hamstrings are scary because they can linger, they can nag at you, they can get worse, they don't heal quickly. So I'm hoping it is just soreness, but I mean, we've all had our hamstrings sore, our legs sore. Sometimes it lasts for a week, and if his is actually more than sore, it's more like, no, it's like tweaked, it's like kind of pulled. That's scary. So we're gonna have to hope that Conley comes back because I do think we'll need him to win the series. This Clippers team is a very talented team. Paul George is overrated, but you just never know. Is he going to be playoff P or regular season P? Because if he's regular season P, he's really freaking good. If he's playoff P, you get 4 of 17. So we'll see. But very excited for this series. Game 2 already tomorrow night. I will not be at the game tomorrow night. I did get tickets for Game 7 if it goes that far, which I kind of think it will. I hope it doesn't, but if it does, I will be there. So, okay, moving forward. Mentioned all of that. Okay, yeah, we got to talk about the Nets series. The Nets are absolutely dominating the Bucks. They're blowing them out by 108 points. Not really, but it was 40-something points or 39 points, or I don't even know what it was. Destroying them. It's not even close, and they're doing it without James Harden, who's also out with a hamstring injury, by the way. And then you think about they're also doing it without DeAndre Jordan and without LaMarcus Aldridge. Those are 3 of their 6 best players are not playing. Their best players, well, let's see. Let's go down the line here of the Nets players. Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving. I would say after that, Joe Harris. And then I would have said LaMarcus Aldridge, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan. I would have put DeAndre Jordan 6th or 7th best player. So 3 of their 6 or 7 best players, 3 of their rotation players, including their 2nd best player in James Harden, are not playing. And they're still absolutely destroying the Bucks. I think they win this series in 5. I've said that. I think the Bucks will put it together and get one of these games at home over the next two. But the Nets are going to win that series, and they look unstoppable right now. I do think the Jazz are significantly better than the Bucks. I think that the Nets are going to steamroll through the East, but the Jazz and the Suns and even the Clippers and even the Nuggets, I think, are all better than the Bucks. And so we'll see what happens in the finals. I'm assuming the Nets will be there, and I'm going to hope that the Jazz are there. But that Nets team is really, really scary. Harden, if he comes back, this is an injury that's like hampered him all season long, or at least for the last third of the season. He missed a bunch of games, and it's still kind of acting up. And now that they're up 2-0, they'll probably just keep him on the bench and keep him healing up and get ready for the next series because they can clearly win this one without him. But that's an injury to keep an eye on too because, again, it's a hamstring. Those last for a long time. But I'll say Nets in 5. 76ers and Hawks are 1-1. Not going to get into that too much, although I will just say I think the 76ers will win that one in 6. Sixers in 6. Suns and Nuggets play tonight. The Suns looked good in Game 1, won big. I think they're going to win that series. I think it'll be closer, though, than Game 1 showed. Probably end up with the Suns in 6 kind of thing would be my guess. I'm taking the Jazz to win this series quite possibly in 7. Home court advantage is going to be big, though. The crowd is loud, it's large, and LA does not have one. They have cardboard cutouts. So, okay, last thing to mention on, some awards were given out yesterday. Still don't know who Defensive Player of the Year is, but I think we do know. I think it's Rudy Gobert. But Jokic gets the MVP. We knew that was going to happen. I had called that for months now. And this just shows a couple of things. This is the most unathletic MVP in the history of the NBA. Jokic is absolutely the most unathletic MVP that the NBA has ever seen. Certainly in my lifetime, we'll say. So in the last 30, 40 years. It shows how much skill has taken over in the NBA over athleticism. Steph Curry, yeah, he's obviously an athlete. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Like, Steph Curry is very athletic, but he's not very athletic compared to other NBA players. You compare his athleticism to that of Russell Westbrook, night and day difference. His skill set, though, is out of this world, right? Jokic is that guy. The guy has like a 4-inch vertical leap, and he just won the MVP of the most competitive professional sports league in the world. So he's the first center to win the MVP since Shaq. He's the first to play every game of the regular season since Kobe in 2008. Shaq's, by the way, the last center to win it was in 2000. Embiid finished second, also a center, and then Curry finished third, but Curry got the second most first place votes over Embiid. But total points, Embiid was second, Curry was third. So, and here's one thing. I love that he's the first player to play every game since Kobe. And I think that if we're really honest with ourselves, is Jokic a top, what is he? Is he a top 5 player in the league? I don't think so. I don't think he is. I think his team finishes a 3 seed. He didn't miss a game, and he had the highest PER, and he can pass, he can shoot, he can rebound, he can kind of do it all. He's very talented. Like I say, his skill set is off the charts. But are you taking Durant or Jokic? Durant. Are you taking LeBron or Jokic? LeBron. Are you taking Harden or Jokic? Harden. Are you taking Giannis or Jokic? I'm taking Giannis. Are you taking Embiid or Jokic? Again, assuming they're all healthy, we're just going off of like ability to win a game. This is the point I'm driving at, is that him not missing games is what won him the MVP, because he's not even a top 5 player in the league. I could keep going down the list. I mean, Kawhi or Jokic. I'm taking Kawhi. Like, we could go on and on and on with a bunch more players. I don't think Jokic is a top 5 player in the league, but he was the MVP of the league, and it's because he is a top 10 player, and he's the only top 10 player who played enough games and made the playoffs to qualify to be the MVP. So I hope this kind of pushes more people into playing more games and stop missing games. The NBA should look at their scheduling and never schedule back-to-backs. I know it's convenient sometimes for them, but just don't do it. Just don't do it. Guys get hurt. Guys don't want to do it. You see them sitting out. You got to improve your product on the floor. Just knock it off with the back-to-backs. I think they could do more every other night games, because oftentimes they'll do a back-to-back and then they have like 2 nights off. You could still squeeze in the same number of games and just do it, just space it out a little bit better. The other award that was issued last night was Coach of the Year, or the other day, Coach of the Year, and Tom Thibodeau won it with the New York Knicks. Not a huge surprise there. We thought it would be him or Monty Williams. I've said all along it should be Quinn Snyder. I still think it should have been Quinn Snyder. Led his team, like I say, to the best record in the NBA, the best point differential in the NBA from start to finish. And he's doing it with a group of guys that they're, in many people's eyes, they're overachieving. Nobody's talking about the Jazz until today. Finally, because they're playing the Los Angeles Clippers, people are talking about the Utah Jazz. It's a market that nobody cares about. Everybody's got a very misconstrued perception that is, misconstrued perception of the Utah Jazz and of the state of Utah. And it's just not a big enough market for people to care. And Snyder's done it. So to me, Snyder should have been. He finished third behind Thibodeau, Monty Williams. Then it was Quinn Snyder as third. Not bad. So we got our sixth man. We'll probably get our defensive player of the year. Coach finished third. But if the Jazz can reach a finals or even win a finals, that would be epic. That's what we're hoping for. I will not do a podcast tomorrow, but I will do one on Friday after we have Game 3 of the Jazz series. So Suns and Nuggets tonight. I'll be watching that one to see who the Jazz will likely play. It'll probably be the Suns, and they whooped us 3-0 in the regular season. I still would take the Jazz. But again, let's breathe, not get ahead of ourselves. We got to win 3 more in this series. It's a lot of work. I think we're probably going to see it go 7 games, and I guess we'll just wait and see. That's all I have for today. I am out. Peace.
Thanks for hanging with Simply the Best Sports Take. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and check out STBSportsTake.com. Simply the best in sports.
'Cause we are warriors, warriors.